beneath the dark, cold waters of the Atlantic hides a creature both curious and formidable, the monkfish. It may not charm the eye, but to the palate it is known as the poor man's lobster, sweet, firm, and richly satisfying. Today, we honour its flavour in a fiery, aromatic, Sri Lankan style curry. I've got about 1 kilo of monkfish here, already cut into bite-sized pieces. Just a touch of turmeric, a squeeze of lemon juice, a pinch of salt, and a crack of pepper. That's all it needs to marinate while we get the curry base ready. Next, I'm chopping 2 medium onions, nice and fine, 4 or 5 cloves of garlic, and a generous piece of fresh ginger. Then 1 whole fiery Scotch bonnet, 4 green chilies for that fresh heat, and ripe tomatoes to bring a little sweetness cherry vine tomatoes. In a thick-bottomed pan, I'm adding a splash of oil and 2 generous knobs of butter, letting it melt together into a rich base. In go the onions, and we sauté them gently for a few minutes until they start to soften and turn golden. Now for those deep Sri Lankan flavours, just half a teaspoon of fenugreek seeds, half a teaspoon of mustard seeds, then 1 teaspoon of Kashmiri chili powder for colour and warmth, and 2 teaspoons of unroasted curry powder for that unmistakable aroma. Give it all a quick stir, letting the spices toast for about a minute so they release every bit of their flavour. Now in goes the chopped garlic, the green chilies, and that fiery Scotch bonnet. This is where the heat really starts to build. I let it cook for just another minute so the aromas open up. Seasoning in stages like this helps the flavours blend more evenly through the dish, instead of sitting on top at the end. Now I'm adding a handful of fresh curry leaves, 2 or 3 bay leaves, and a stick of Ceylon cinnamon. Sri Lankan cinnamon is the best in the world, sweet, warm, and beautifully aromatic, without that harsh bite you get from other varieties. Then 4 or 5 green cardamom pods and 3 or 4 cloves. These will slowly infuse the curry with an incredible fragrance. At this stage, I add just a little roasted Sri Lankan curry powder. Unlike the unroasted version we used earlier, roasted curry powder has a deeper, smokier flavour and a darker colour. Adding it now gives the curry body and richness without overpowering the delicate taste of the monkfish. Now I'm adding the chopped tomatoes. They'll break down and create a natural sauce, adding both sweetness and acidity to balance the heat and spices in the curry. After about 2 minutes, I add just a splash of water. This stops the spices from catching on the bottom of the pan and keeps all that flavour right where we want it, in the curry. Now you can see how rich this curry base has become, and the aroma is absolutely unbelievable, warm, spiced, and full of flavour. Now I'm adding around 600 millilitres of coconut milk. This will turn our spice base into a smooth, creamy sauce. At this stage, I taste and adjust the salt, so the flavours are perfectly balanced. Now, it's time to place our seasoned monkfish pieces into this creamy sauce. I'm adding them one by one, making sure they sit nicely without overlapping. That way, each piece cooks evenly and soaks up all that flavour. Rather than stirring with a spoon, I gently swirl the pot to mix the fish through the sauce. Monkfish is firm, but I still want to be careful. This way, the pieces stay whole and perfectly tender. I place the lid on and bring the curry up to a gentle boil. This helps the fish cook through while all those spices and coconut milk blend into a rich, velvety sauce. Once it comes to the boil, I let it simmer for just a few minutes until the fish is perfectly cooked. Then I add a handful of freshly chopped coriander. It brings a burst of freshness and a wonderful herbaceous flavour to finish this monkfish curry. And just before serving, I finish with the juice of half a fresh lemon. It brightens the sauce and lifts all those rich, spicy flavours in the monkfish curry. Today, I'm serving my monkfish curry with fragrant basmati rice and a freshly made coconut sambol, just the way we do in Sri Lanka. The creamy, spiced curry, the fluffy rice, and that bright, zesty sambal make the perfect combination. If you enjoyed this recipe, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps the YouTube algorithm share my videos with other food lovers just like you. That's all for today. See you next time. And drop a comment to tell me which country you're watching from. I always love hearing where my recipes travel to.